من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وعلى كل شيء قدير. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. I'm a brother, never fathers. Assalamu alaikum. I say that prayer for all of us, and essentially, it is very important for you to recognize what I'm saying as a fellow comrade and somebody that is involved with trying to make society better, just like you are. And if you can embellish that prayer with me without squirming in your seat, then we are past obstacle number one. Welcome to the world of increasing Muslim populations. A population that is targeted very much so by Homeland Security in the United States government today. Yo, me. And maybe somebody in the audience, or maybe somebody that you know. I also open like that so that you can recognize an important point of what's being said in these prayers. So all humble as it may sound, that it strikes a very nerve chord with the perilous powers. And what I said was, just to bring it real succinct, it's all praise be to Allah. And during the time, it's a history lesson here, of Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace and blessings be upon him, it wasn't so much of the fact that he was worshiping Allah, God, because the powers that be even offered him then, look, I don't care if you want to get down on the ground, put your head in the mud and your behind up in the air. You want to starve yourself for 30 days, every 360 days or whatever, a year. Call it Ramadan, if you want to, it doesn't matter. They offer money, what is that? What mattered was that statement posed a threat economically because it was changing the threshold of power. You, I, anybody in this order, you can worship what you want. Who cares? I don't care what you do, you prayer, and all that. But it spoke to what powers are fearful of the most. This here. Because when the Prophet Muhammad came, throughout all these idols in what's called the Kaaba, which is where Mecca is today, when you go on pilgrimage, if you are familiar. Well, also during this time, repeatedly throughout the year, pilgrims from all over came to trade. This is money. This is money. And what you said, we can't do this anymore. Now, you could have said anything else. So, if anybody in this room, and your notion and concept of a movement is about changing, radically changing those who control the power, divesting them, and putting that in the hands of the people, you, I, us, we will be faced with the same vicious vengeance that was meted out to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him and his followers. The same vengeance that is meted out today for those who understand. Which segues into my talk today, reform versus revolution. Because that was revolution. I'd like to thank the Law and Disorder Conference organizers, my comrade, brother Adam Carpinelli, who's also a representative of Jericho, my sister Paulette, Mick, who I've met and shared very good conversations with each and every one of you I had the opportunity to talk with. And for those, Jeff, I'd like to thank you very much. And all the conversations that I've heard, the workshops, this whole notion of reform versus revolution has taken some considerable changes. So I wanted to talk about it, how it was then, and how this whole concept and notion is today. So when I said in the workshop that Paulette and I gave earlier, back in the day, I guess back in the day is, however old you are, mine is 30 years. For the youngsters in here, and you just do the math. Back in the day, I want to start off by actually talking about the civil rights movement, just briefly. And the civil rights movement is heralded in this country as or even the powers that be, much as they may lie about how they appreciated it. The civil rights movement reflects the whole notion and concept of reform. We want to reform a system coming from an ancestors of slaves, from the throes of slavery, not too long ago, actually, in the history of nations. Not too long ago. And the whole mental dynamic of becoming a part, tilling the land, blood in the soil. This is our country, too. Slavery, the institution of slavery in this country was very unique. I'm not going to go that far back. It's not necessary to make the point that I'm going to make. I'm going to attempt to make. But the civil rights movement kind of like coalesced all of that energy. Us toiling the land, our country, talking about Africans, the sons and daughters of Africans, black people, people of color. The civil rights movement. We want our civil rights. The right to participate, the right to be protected, the right to cherish, the right to have a peaceful existence, the right to vote, the right to run for office. I just got my civil rights back. I didn't have any civil rights. I just got them back in January. I was laughing because of the Joker.
Because you got your civil rights.
No, actually, I did 23 years on a 43-year sentence as a member of the Black Liberation Army with these bank expropriations. And I came home. It's one of the fortunate ones that was able to come home after during that time, mostly in Leavenworth, Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary, which is where I met Paulette and myself. And came home on parole. For those that are acquainted with the law, there was an old law prison, we were given parole back then. I came home on parole, I had to see a parole officer. And, for a violent offense, as I guess they would consider bank robbery to be, that I had to wait 5 years with exemplary conduct. And then a year after that, I petitioned to get off of parole. They let me off of parole. Then the Commonwealth of Virginia, which is where I live now, Richmond, Virginia, has one of the few states that even though you may have paid all your responsibilities off, which I was busted in the 70s, they didn't have that then, I'm glad. And it wasn't asking for no money, court fees. That happened later, and I didn't owe nobody nothing. Stuff was still buried under the house in the 3rd grade. Hey, no, ain't bad nothing. Forget about it. One day I'm gonna get it back. But I waited 5 more years after that, and it wasn't until January, literally, that I got my civil rights back. And that was after I was on television for Black History Month, I guess, criticizing the governor, because in the Commonwealth of Virginia, as codified in their written legislative history, the reason was to disenfranchise black people, slaves. So, my dear friend, if you got caught stealing a chicken or out past sunset or where your papers at? then you go to some bootleg prison or work farm or whatever the case may be, and then you forevermore will not be able to vote. Not that you could anyway, even if you were allowed to, because there's other obstacles even with that. So, but I got my rights back. Civil rights. The civil rights movement dealt with civil rights. And I guess it accumulated in the passing of the 1963 Civil Rights Legislation. 1963, 73, 83, 93, 2003. I guess we're not talking that long ago in the history of this great nation. For women, still the struggle continues. For people of color, the struggle continues to be recognized. But there is a movement, weak as it may seem today, that was very strong back then. And people sacrificed their lives and gave their lives. And throughout the whole history building up to 1963, this growing movement to be recognized as citizens of this country. It was a righteous, serious endeavor where people died. People were killed. For those that's going to be here tomorrow, we're going to do a little dramatical presentation about that, and you're going to participate. We're going to try to make you feel that the best that I can. So when we say a peaceful movement, the civil rights movement, it didn't necessarily mean peace. You're being peaceful, at least the best you can. You know, but people were cattle prodded. You know, an electrical cattle prod is very akin to the stun gun that we have now. You know, all of this. They move cattle along in the field, just touching the cattle. But obviously you can't push the big joint. High power water pressure hoses, shooting you, ostracizing you, intimidating you. This was a movement that required a lot of courage if you were really in the forefront. So make no mistake, for the young sisters and brothers here who say the civil rights movement, don't dismiss it as, yeah, man, they need to get real. And I say that because I joined the Black Panther Party when I was 16 years old. And that's what I used to say, because it was so antagonistic. I mean, it was like, tired of this stuff. Police brutality was very overt, and I used to openly criticize the men in Martin Luther King's birthday. Man, ain't nobody gonna do that to me, because I'm gonna, like, you know, blow you out the water type of thing. And that was that type of break off in the Black Liberation Movement. Things got a little more militant. We started talking about armed struggle in this country. Armed struggle in this country. If you could just savor that for a minute. And it wasn't just the Black Panther Party talking about that. It wasn't just the Black Liberation Army. It was the Brown Berets. It was the Bloods, not the Blood organization that you may know. The Republic of New Africa, the Native American Movement, the Weather Underground, the Students for a Democratic Society. There's a lot of organizations. It was about making this thing change. And for the most part, we're talking about economically a socialist government. And matter of fact, all across Northern Africa and many parts of the East, in Latin America, South America, these revolutions, these Marxist revolutions, debunking capitalism. And everybody, young and old, wanted to be a part of that. Now it's changed, and we'll talk about now today in a minute. But it's changed because you can't get socialism to roll off your mouth without receiving the rebuke and condemnation of your neighbor or everybody around you. Socialism, you know. Even when trying to derail the whole Obama thing, which is a lot to be said about whether or not that was even real or not, but that's a whole other analysis. So I'm not going to get off of that. But just the whole thing of trying to label him as a socialist just to turn people off like that. I say not to get into that because I'm just using that as an example to bring out this point that I'm making, because a lot can be said about these bogus election things and this fake democracy that we live in. But that was the reform part. Reform essentially is that we love the country as it is. We're not trying to change anything structurally. We want a piece of this. We want to reform, rectify, correct the injustices that exist, the immorality that exists, the racism and prejudice that exists, to the point that we'll give our life to do it without posing any violent threat, but we'll stand arm in arm. And it showed it to a sizable degree what these type of reformist movements can bring about. They can bring about a lot of reform in society. A lot of reform, because and that reform is maybe reflected in the fact that you can even have a conference here. So don't take the effects of the civil rights movement lightly. You know, people that I used to call Uncle Toms and this and that made it possible for me to even open my mouth to a great degree, because a lot of laws have changed then. So standing here now as a former member of the Black Panther Party and Black Liberation Army member, I give my props and respect to the civil rights movement and what was done. But as Marxism teaches us, that even in the Quran, Allah says that He created pairs in everything. It coincides with the whole dialectic of the unity of opposites. I don't want to get too detailed on you. You know, there's a contradiction in everything. We tried, Panthers, if anybody studied dialectics, you can study it in school, you get an A on the test, but there's another thing to study it as a lifestyle. As you engage the Black Panthers, who's 16 or 17 years old on a college campus, you probably lose that debate. Because it's not like studying this stuff. I got an A on Professor so-and-so's test. No, we're getting ready to rectify and change this society to go along with these principles. But there's a contradiction in everything, and the question is, be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. Be careful about asking and struggling and protesting to be a part of the mainline culture, because you might get it, and it won't be the way that you thought. It might absorb you into it in such a way that you won't be yourself anymore. It'll take your guts and your essence and your soul and your righteousness right from you. Be careful what you ask for, because it may not be what you expected it to have been. And that's one of the results and products of the civil rights movement. The revolution part was simply that we wanted to destroy capitalism and or establish our own society. Now, there's a very important in this country that's called the territory. The Black Panther Party and the Republic of New Africa we're struggling to have our own society, recognizing the reality that we can't overthrow the United States society as such. But we can circle in on these states down south, which were South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. That's the territory. That's our land. We're claiming it. We have our own constitution. That was in 1968, Republic of New Africa. A lot going into this. All right? We're going to defend our communities. We're not going to turn the water hose on us because we're going to blow you away the best that we can. We're going to protect our communities. I give these presentations at campuses that's not a room full of activists such as you beautiful selves. Just eager students want to hear what I have to say. And they're looking at me kind of cross-eyed in a way when I started seeming like I'm talking about violence. So I look at the guys in the room and I say, your lady friend or a partner, I come up and I attempt to assault her. What would you do? I used to walk up to a joker, scare him a little bit. I'm such a joker. I'm from New Jersey. Joker means friend. Walk up to a guy and say, so if I show signs that I'm going to molest or injure your partner, your wife or your girlfriend or just your friend, what would be your position? And obviously, I guess you would try to confront me physically if necessary, because the threat is imminent. And I say to them, if that is not your position, and I'll give you a weightlifter or a wrestler or whatever, if that's not your position, you're a coward. And I can tell you that to your face. You're a coward, man. You're a coward, you're a punk. Punk. That's what you are. Likewise, by analogy, people come into your community and terrorize its inhabitants repeatedly, men, women, and children, and you dare not to do anything, you're a coward and a punk. That's what you are. So you can take my position as a Black Liberation Army member and put it right there, because that's what we do. That's what we did. We defended our community. would let you know right now that you cannot come in our community with that yin-yang nonsense, because we're going to try our best to meet bullet for bullet. And from the professor on down, you got to go with that. What are you going to say? Somebody attempts to molest or rape or pillage your mother, your grandmother, and you do nothing? No, just take it on a broader perspective. This is our community. And what happens if it happens year after year? Whatever's been historic. It's historic. It's been decades. There's a couple of centuries going on with this stuff here. Only deserves a 2 thumbs up. And the pioneers of that deserves a 2 thumbs up. You can only salute us. I even told my parole officer that. By the time that meeting was over, he closed the book and got me a job. He said, what do you know how to do? You're an electrician? Okay, I'll get your job. Because even with himself sitting in that seat, but confronted with that information, not unless you want to show yourself to be such a measly, worthless piece of scum, you have to say right home, I respect that. When you do that, Mr. Parole Officer, that's what a revolution was. That's the argument I present to you. That's where we was coming from. When somebody hears that story, hey, don't tell me, us, we, that we can't do that, that we cannot, how dare you begin to say that we cannot defend ourselves. Sending people all around the world, 18 years old, whatever, to fight wars and kill other people. We can't defend our communities from your aggression. Well, them days are kind of like over with. There was a culture of struggle that built up over the decades in this country, of resistance. We can go back, which I'm not going to go back too far because of the time. We go all the way back to the Marcus Garvey movement. Everything that's going on back then. Just the whole coming out of the throes of slavery was like, got to do this, got to defend ourselves. It was an obvious argument. It was an obvious position. I had a presentation. I went down to Atlanta several years ago, my wife and family and children, and looking at the house of Martin Luther King and that person that was doing that, and he made a comment that I definitely heard loud and clear. That Martin Luther King had a gun. And that changes things. So all the peaceful demonstration that was representing, he knows that in the back of his waistband, need be, he's going to protect his family. Now people are running with his name, Martin Luther King, they're going to tell you and I to turn in our rosters. And so we're going to talk about in a minute about what's happening now. It's not a culture of struggle. We're not surrounded and absorbed in a culture of struggle where the revolutionaries can like blend in like fish in the sea, like Mao Zedong said, and there's all this romantic notions of struggle and cell structures and this and that was going on, and we were pioneers, so we got played out. I understand that. All right, I understand that. And we're not talking about that part for the sake of this lecture here. I understand that. We got played out big time. Counterintelligence program, pitting one against the other, the whole thing there. We couldn't match bullet for bullet, that is true, and all of that, But it was a culture that even somebody nodding on the street corner, hey, bro, what's happening? You ain't gonna get that from a crackhead. Drug dealers, everybody. They had all kinds of organizations. It was a culture of common respect and free love. Everything was just, we just don't want to have nothing to do with capitalism. Anything. We would dance naked in the street, smoke, rock out, and Woodstock. Everything was just cool. This, not that. Anything but that. Grow your head long, crazy, and everything. Anything but the music, Everything was supportive of it. But we don't have the luxury of sitting down, and I don't know, Mick and I was talking, breakfast this morning, of being able to, when we pass the baton over to the next generation, we don't have the luxury to really analyze that and pin our mistakes and our weaknesses and our frailties and see how to make this better and do this like this, like our enemy does. Because I got to pay the rent, I only have time. Matter of fact, I gotta catch a plane, I gotta go back, and then I gotta go to work, you know. And it's a lot of other things detracting us. So now that culture's no longer there. I have a friend in Chicago who used to always say that capitalism dictates behavior. Now the time has been dropped. Because individualism has been accentuated so much and applauded so much that there's no movement. These people have sat down and calculated the demise of this. We got to stop this. It's the media and all the money that goes into the TV programs and movies and money. All them hardcore rappers that started off, if you're going to make a living out of this, you got to start talking about tits and breasts and butts and penises and vaginas in order to make some money. Because if you're talking about struggle, you're not going to make a dime here. And nobody's going to sign you up. And that house party stuff is going to play itself out. And you ask anybody that's 20-some years old or something like that, here's a $100,000 record label thing on your first song. We give you that check right now. And then whatever royalties come off of that. If you want CBS Records to sign you up. If you want to be promoted. You want to be heard on the radio. All that KRS-One and Public Enemy stuff, over. Take that stuff out. Even had the president talking about Sister Souls. Get her out of here. Let's not lock it down. No more culture like that. Capitalism, now everybody's chasing the carrot. Capitalism dictates behavior regardless if you're down the program or not, unless you want to live out the boonies. No electricity in your house because it is so woven into everything. And this was predicted. It was better, well, I can't say better, take that word back. It was blank, you feel it. When George Jackson wrote in his book, not Prison Letters, Blood in My Eye, about the different stages of fascism. That back in the day, when the fascism was the police coming through your community like this, it was clear. Make no mistake. I joined the Panther Party because just coming home with my father. When I was a kid, and my brother, I looked out the car, stopped the car, 357 to his head. No reason why. I peed on myself. I was scared to death. Went to the car, drive off, get out of here. That was it for me. When I got old enough to see brothers, in the community standing with rifles and shotguns, I'm down with that. But now that's not here. We're all chasing the carrot. Because everything has been so commercialized and so dependent upon your 40-hour week, you're starved in this type of environment. And all communalism, the things that Huey Newton talked about, all this is gone. His brother once said that if you take a frog and put it in some nice water and slowly turn it up, the heat up, and the heat up slowly, and if you can get the frog out the gut by just getting out, and that frog will lay there until it boils to death. But if you took that same frog and the water was already boiling, and you put it in, you can jump straight out. Just like you were. You both jump, you made me jump. You made me jump, there was something wrong. You put that frog in that water, he jumps straight out. And that's what has happened to us. They've individualized our lives so much. Now, it's not happening to everybody at once. Everybody's not losing their house at once. You lost yours, but everybody else didn't. That's your struggle, buddy. She went to jail, but you all didn't. That's your struggle. They got locked up. This happened to them. Just slowly but surely whittling away, beating you down. So it was not everybody, not at the same time, because it happened all at once at the same time. You see instances where something happens at the same time and you have all these occupied issues. Because if it happened all at the same time to everybody at once, people would be in the street in masses, and that's a done deal. So now society is so individualized, so competitive against each other, from the sports to every single thing. and you're on your own money. And so are our movements. We're on our own. There's no movement like that anymore. Not to say that tomorrow it can't, but that is one major thing that has changed. The individualism, success, got a job, it's just me. You don't feel for your sister and brother. That tradition, that Islamic tradition is, one for your brother and sister, but you want for yourself is not really there anymore. The conditions, the TV and cell phone, read your blood in my eye, the gadgets, the contradiction in things. You think you're making progress, because along with that progress comes a step back maybe in our humanity. Without progress, step back in our humanity, because the one that's producing, manufacturing, says we don't control the means of production. So along with all these gadgets and stuff comes a certain mindset. There's a certain marketing that goes along with that. That breaks down our unity, our social cohesion. And now we're clones. So here's what George Jackson said, for those who have not read Blood in My Eye. He said that fascism in its rudimentary form is the stormtroopers in the streets, the police, and you fight them back and forth. You fight them just like the Palestinians maybe throwing rocks. I got my 9mm, you got your machine guns. I understand that. We're fighting. We're fighting. We see clearly the contradiction. We're fighting for our freedom. It's clear. The advanced form of fascism, where to a great extent the stormtroopers withdraw. They didn't disappear. They withdraw a little bit, because you know who took their place? You did. You did. You protect. You snitch. You tell. You cooperate. You conspire with the United States government to keep your own movement down. You did. Out of a culture that they cultivated with nothing but fear. Fear of losing your possessions, of losing your position, of what happened to me. You're scared. Through your progress, you became scared of losing it. That's the contradiction. There's a contradiction in everything. That's just one contradiction. Along with your progress, you lost your humanity. Another step in progress, if I want to keep this material wealth that I've gained through capitalism, then I'm going to have to look out for my own ass, not yours. That's progress. And not progress of people in the United States of America, of which I am one, has been built on the backs of oppressing country after country around the world, of causing destruction and mayhem in countries around the world. The invasion of countries around the world, from Latin America to the Far East to Africa. You sit here, we sit here, I sit here, and it happens before your own eyes in front of a 62-inch colored flat screen TV, how they may bomb the hell out of Iraq. And it was never weapons of mass destruction, and you have a yellow thing on your bumper sticker saying support our ignorant troops that have been deceived to go over there to kill other people. And you feel, not you, I'm not talking about us. Anybody out there that's not in this room. And you see how the story goes. Never mind that we're over there for what? To protect Israel, for the oil? You're even scared to say. Because to say, and say it incorrectly, you'll be put on some list. You can't even Google some of the information because you'll be put on some list. It's fear. And I don't want to be. I can't be. I'm not. And we have scholar after scholar who claims to represent us come with these scholarly presentations why these cowardly positions is the right position, until we all become a nation full of cowards, subject to calling 911 on each and every one of us when we see ourselves becoming too involved, getting arrested and telling on each other 30 minutes in the police station. Your whole history is on side. When I was with my grandmother, and you know what? I didn't even know that about you. Not only did you say that you did it and told on everybody, you gave your whole history. So when I was 9, you know, what's going on? Because it's not really there. The principle's not really there. So today, reform versus revolution was kind of clear back then. The militants wanted to try to get their own independence, self-determination. The reform wanted just a piece of this and make it work. Both the movements played out. Today, I guess there's no revolution at all, because the revolution translates into just mayhem and madness. You know, one thing that, out of all the things that the Panther Party might have done, one thing that the media tries its best to downplay, but you know for yourself is true, is our survival programs. Feeding the people in the community, and clothing the people in the community, educating the people in the community, running the drugs out. Oh yeah, running the drugs out. That's why one of it wasn't just death to the pigs, it was also death to the pusher. You couldn't even get that out your mouth now, one of them youngsters with baggy pants blowing your brains out. You will whisper that. We confronted that. You tell one of them youngsters that death to the pusher out there. Go out there to wherever it is in this city. Go anywhere. Tell one of them jokers on the corner that's out there slinging. Tell them to get off the corner. I did. You tell them to get off the corner. Tell them this is our neighborhood, we don't want that poison in our streets. They have to get out of here. They ain't calling out. You get out there and do it. You build a new society. You build a new society. Let me see you say it.
Building a new society.
There you go, sister. I love it. There you go. Because we were talking about that. It's self-defense and all of that. The media wanted to accentuate that. We were just defending ourselves. But what was really happening is we're really building. We're building stuff. This is what we're doing. And we're building stuff. You see stuff happening today, you don't know what they're building. You don't even know what their position is. You want to know what's the CIA, FBI that really did it. Don't even know what the heck is going on. I don't even know, who knows what Al-Qaeda is? I'm a Muslim. I've been a Muslim since 1976. I don't even have a clue what that is. I don't have a clue what that is. Who it is. Don't have a clue. And I'm very involved in the Muslim community. Very outspoken. Don't have a clue, man, what this FBI, CIA fabricated bull crap is. You understand what I'm saying? Have you hated? They were so scared that he couldn't even bury the Muslim body for the Boston bombing. They didn't have that position with the guy, the joker that killed all the kids in Sandy Hook. You didn't even think to ask was he a Christian or not. And you got the Muslim community so scared that they won't even bury their own as a religious obligation. You go to fight people in other wars in other countries, and when you capture their bodies, you bury them. A culture of fear, you're scared to death. And that's how it is. Jenny, wherever she is, where are you, Jenny? Hey, Jenny. Jenny I wasn't able to get in all the workshops. But Jenny gave a workshop dealing with training for entrapment. This is the age that we're in. It's not a culture of movement to bring about change necessarily anymore, even though we may be. What it is that we're in organizations that want to bring about change. And those organizations stick out like sore thumbs because it's absent the culture. So when you leave out of here, everybody's looking at you. Where y'all at? Y'all going? They over there doing that thing. Instead of somebody going out into the street after your meeting, what's happening? Hey, yeah, I'm outside, I couldn't be there. Yeah, what y'all, okay, keep on. That's not there. It's just you getting on the bus and being followed. You know, and then when we leave and go our own ways, many of us go to places that are totally absent of anything that we talk about. Talk about it at the kitchen table or something like that. So today, then, reform versus revolution was a clear concept. Both of them had movements. We're going to talk in the other workshop, I guess, about whether or not reform is a part of revolution and all of that, but I'm not speaking in that context right now. I'm just drawing the difference right here. Today, it's almost hard to say what we have. We definitely have skittish reform. You're not even trying to, what are you trying to, it's not even reform. Because most of those reformist organizations, they're scared to even address the things that reform this thing. Okay, let's reform the Patriot Act. And I can't do that. Well, let's reform the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act. Well, I can't speak on that neither. Well, let's talk about reforming what the Homeland Security can do. I can't talk about that neither. Well, let's reform about massive incarceration. Well, I can't talk about that neither because, let's talk about reforming the Prison Sentencing Reform Act. Well, I can't do that neither. Well, what the hell do you want to reform? You don't even want, you're scared to reform anything. Not us. That's why I raised my voice. So, you hear me? Even the reformers movement scared to reform anything. What do you want to reform? And like I said, the revolutionaries, if any, we lost the idea, or we can't say this, can't speak what's in the person's mind, or what they would like to do in their heart, but we lack the capacity to put forth what we're building. Once again, referring to Huey. We beefed East Coast, West Coast Panthers. That's another story. But I still refer to Huey Newton a lot because he said a lot of good things, and this is sober mind. In Haiti, it was powerful leadership there for a brief moment. All right, confronting the police on the street, following them, shadowing them. Somebody gets stopped, you stop with them. Being in the rights, taking guns and pistols. That's a little bit of gutsy there. Imagine doing it today. You put in perspective how gutsy that might have been. Okay. No ideology. Huey Newton said, he painted an ideology for us. He said that these survival programs are like a boat that carries to a shore. Painted a picture of what you want to build. That way, all your efforts are designed to build this type of society with these type of principles. This is what's involved. So your everyday Unabomber, I don't know what they may do. I don't know what's going on. There's so much venom and hate, and understandably so, against the powers that be, that you just do it. Like, and as Malcolm even said one time in one of those speeches I was talking, if a snake come in my house and bite my daughter, then I'm running out looking for it. Any snake will do. Any snake will do. It may not be the same snake that bit her. Any snake will do. And that's what's happening to any snake. It's like anything. But the any snake translates down to children, women, and non-military combatant targets. I don't know what the hell. Got me almost ready to walk down the street. The fear was just bull crap happening. And that's not revolution. Don't let nobody say you on that neither. That's just us. Venom, I understand. I understand. War to flee. The only thing I can do is bite you a little bit, and tug on your ass, and hope it hurts. I don't care what the best I can. But it's not revolution. Revolution is not madness and chaos. You're trying to build something new. So then and now, the then is reform. It's like a mealy-mouthed word. I don't even know what we're trying to reform anymore. When we're scared to even address the issue that could be reformed, and we just stand and write a letter to your congressman or speak out or address the public or hold a protest or demonstration and maintain and have some type of sustainability and build a movement on that. That's back to zero. And the revolution part is just like, oh man, I don't even want you to win. Because man, I'd rather do bad than do something in my refrigerator than the color television set to get your madness. Because I don't know what the heck you're trying to do. And that's the answer. I got to wrap it up. We're going to have some questions, but when it gets to that type of thing, as George Orwell, you're familiar with the animal farm syndrome. You got to be, there's so much to say about this here, but I'm just going to say it in a breath, and you can either weed it or fed it out during the questions or just think about it. But those of us that aspire for another society, you want to make sure that you are cultivating within your own circles, even if it's with your children or the youngsters, whatever, the wherewithal to maintain and sustain that. Otherwise, it's already been proven that you be worse of an oppressor than your oppressor. Trying to hold it down and keep it down. And I know the casualties of revolution, at least I academically know, not being going through one myself here in the good old USA. But these were the things that we were concerned about at 16 and 17 years old in the Panther Party. What were the casualties? What can we build? What do you know how to do? You engineer, okay, how can we pull this together? How would that look? What about our own institutions? Can we do that? Or are we, worse, are we even thinking about that for the revolutionaries of the world? Are we thinking about that? Because this is serious business. So in closing, then we can open up for comments and you can throw things at me. I can duck. If you agree with just a little bit of what my perspective, and I'm only giving like a 45-minute presentation. Obviously, this is conversations that warrant a lot of talk. A lot of things I'm saying is a lot of generalized things. Obviously, I'm just giving a presentation. I'm going to sit down and be cut up because it is the discussion that carries on for lifetimes. It's discussions that carry on for lifetimes. If you're talking about building a new society, then you're talking about building the responsibility, the acumen, and the sense of humanity that's going to be able to sustain that society. And I know you can't see it all. We can't see it all standing here. It's like driving down the road. You have to go 2 miles before you see the next 2 miles. And then you go, oh, there you go. So you have to go a little distance before you see how to even answer that question. But it has to be realized that these are questions that have to be addressed. It's not just about cutting up and destroying, which is what page the world is on today. A lot of cutting up and destroying. You know, it's about having our own media and all these things have to go. But I do applaud what we're doing here. The Law and Disorder Conference is the 4th year, I believe. You know, it holds all that promise where we can hear presentations and we need even more of it. And I'm sure that in other cities and towns and places there is a lot of that going on amongst ourselves. I know I've bashed the choir to death. And that's how it goes when one person has the mic preaching to the choir. I understand that. But hopefully there's something out of what I said that could be a benefit and jar your thinking. You know, and I would say that anything I said that was offensive to anybody, I do apologize. I'm telling Jenny I talk like that. Just, you know, sometimes my mouth moves so fast, I see it moving too. I just can't, you know, I can see my lips sometimes. But I know what my heart is and what I want to say. So if I've offended anybody, I apologize. And if I've been a benefit, then I thank you very much. So now I guess it's open to Adam, right? How you want to orchestrate this?
We can take a stack.
You can take a stack?
I can take a stack.
Okay. Oh.